Hey everyone,
It's Chad Church,
and Nikolai Phelan.
and we are excited to bring to you our brand new podcast,
Hullabaloo, a cross-generational
media consumption podcast
where two gay men
from different generations
watch movies,
read books
listen to music, and more,
to bridge Gen X.
and Gen Z. I thought that was pretty good.
Let's do another take.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Hullabaloo. My name's Nikolai Phelan, and this is
I am Chad Church, reliably.
And we're super excited today to bring you our second recording of Fame Sick because we read it, which is the new memoir by Lena Dunham. As mentioned before, though, we have more of a structured format. So we're going to get to Fame Sick really soon. But first, it's been a couple weeks since we've been able to catch up. How have you been doing, Chad?
I've been doing good. I've been working, and it was the holiday, so I got away. But it seems like whenever I get away, I'm still working anyway. So it's never really a full getaway, but I've been hot, as I think everybody in the world has been. It's nice to feel the weather a little bit because it took so long to get here. But
Right.
now it's kind of like, all right, so did you have to come in full force? And before we know it, it's going to be August again,
Right. And and the thing is it's so crazy how summer used to be. I used to always talk about this, that summer used to be my favorite season, and now I don't. I enjoy the events in summer,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't look forward to summer because to me, summer, when it arrives like this dark cloud of climate change. It is the fiery, like it is truly like the beginning visitations of hell itself or something. And when I was living in Barcelona, summers were so brutal, and they didn't believe in AC, and so you'd have two fans. I remember when me and Kate was like refused to move into an apartment that didn't have AC, and honestly, good for her for insisting on that, because once we did have AC, it was a game changer. Like, it did make things a lot more bearable. But I remember when one summer it was like probably when I was 25, must have been 2022, and it was so hot, and I have the two fans going, and nothing's working, and I'm sweating, and then the power goes out, and so you don't have a phone, you don't have a computer, you don't have any fans, and at that point I was broke. And so I couldn't even go out and like buy myself an ice cream. I just was suffering. And it was so bad. Oh my God. That was such a tough time. So I definitely, when everyone's warning me about the Berlin winter.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of, yeah, because they say it's super dark and stuff. I'm curious about it, but I'm also interested in it. I think that Berlin is just such a surreal place. It's a very, very surreal kind of city. And so, like, even here now, right? Like, it's technically 2:52 a.m. In about 30 minutes. By the time this podcast is over, I think I could almost bet you money that by the time this podcast is over, when we're done recording, I'm going to turn the webcam and you're going to see the light coming in, and it won't even be 4 a.m. and the sun will have begun its rising.
Wow. That'll screw
Yeah.
up like your internal clock like crazy.
I love it. I already have a screwy clock. I think that's why
You
it's like,
being that it's 2 a.m., yes, you do have a little bit of a screwy clock.
yeah.
But I'm the
So
same way. I'm like such a late night, like, I'll go to bed at 2 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m. And then, I'm definitely up by like many times 7:30, 8 o'clock. And then it's just like today has been one of those days. And I'm like, okay, note it's, 9 o'clock. Here I go. This is the end of it because it's just one thing after the other. And we've been quite busy lately. But
Yeah.
I'm not a, when I spent a summer in Alaska and that whole night of the midnight sun thing, it was a trip. I mean, it was just always light out.
And I'm finally like kind of I feel like I'm starting to really like feel this sense of like I don't want to say ownership of Berlin, but I do feel like defensive about it. Like there's so many people that I can tell like who don't like it, who there are people who like talk shit about it, etc. But I have this feeling of like I'm really happy to be here and I'm totally okay that it's not like that she has a lot of work to do and I'm excited to be a part of doing that work.
You
And it's been nice to kind of turn the page on that because it was like there was this period, especially in like the early days, where I was like, it was actually right around when I was we tried to record the first version of this and then it didn't, you know. And when I was in that a crazy hotel that was so crazy. It was like blue and it had a horrible interior decoration. There was no mini fridge and there was no Wi-Fi. And I was like, that was when that was happening. I remember there was this feeling of like, oh my God, like this is such a lonely place. And I can understand like how it can be and how it could be, but there's this general feeling of like it's really social. People are really like friendly, and you can be busy and connect with people. But it's a matter of number of exposures, right? Like
know.
people are like I needed to put in the work, and now it's like I've kind of continued to kind of go out and meet people, and I'm meeting so many different interesting people, and I'm just loving that it's a totally different world.
And where are you going to meet? Like coffee shop, bar, down at the park? What's the gig?
Well, okay, so sometimes I have gone to like the lake. The lake is really fun. What's interesting about Berlin is, okay, so in New York, there's something really special that happens, right? New York will have certain parties where everybody comes out. So all of New York shows up for a party, right? It's like there will be a certain event or a certain thing, and everybody comes out, and then it's just like alive. But the
Hmm.
thing that's interesting about Berlin is that Berlin naturally does that all the time. Like it is it is like everybody like the lake, for example, it's like a watering hole. Like I got there and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so social." Like everybody everybody's here at the
Are
lake.
there
You know,
drinks?
like at yeah, you can buy drinks. Guys selling drinks around. He's a little bit intense about it. He's yelling and like that guy's actually that guy in particular was crazy. And then there's another guy selling pretzels, but you know, it was fun. Like you could kind of bounce around. And I think that what's interesting about it and what's also difficult about it is that it rewards you the more times you meet people, the more work you put into it, the more you're going to gain in these situations. But it is the hardest at the beginning.
Well, how did the people engage with you? I mean, is it like you're out there, you're on the dock, someone comes up and walks by and says hello, and you're like, hey, how
Sometimes it's sexual. Like sometimes people are turned on. They say, "Oh, you're hot." That can be a thing.
goes to what?
Another way that it can happen is, for example, I was invited by somebody, but I had met him at a party, and so it was my
I
friend
I
Joelle,
can't
and
believe I'm gonna
Joelle was
interrupt you because I'm like, you just got there. You're being invited to parties. I mean, like that's
uh,
pretty
yeah,
engaging out of the
but
gate.
but the parties are so the thing is when I first got here, I I did know some people because of when I was here in February, and because I knew some people from before that, but I definitely knew a lot less people than New York,
Hmm.
right? But as it's turning out, like what's happening is I'm starting to understand and appreciate the experience of all of the newness. Like
Hmm.
in New York, it was like, this is so amazing. I have this community, I have all these people. But in this instance, I'm like there was so much unknown and there was so much that so many people that I didn't know if I would connect with or it would happen or you know, you talk to them briefly or you go, and that's it. Like you can bounce around, chat, and you meet people, you get each other's Instagrams, and then you say like, well, let's see what happens. And then you go to a different event, or I went to a book today. There was a photography book signing, and I went to that because my friend invited me, and a bunch of people that we knew were there. Hey, hey, hey. And so it's like a lot of if you're a creative and open-minded and like thoughtfully engaged individual, a lot of the people that are here are like that. And
Hmm.
so if you go to those spaces, you go to those places, if you're paying attention and you care about electronic music, so you're like, I really like this artist, I'm going to go see them, you're going to find people that have similar taste and you're going to have something to talk about. And so it's like everyone says like, oh, it's hard to make deep, meaningful friendships. And I thought, because there were a lot of people that I was like, I would meet them and it was like, oh, let's go on a date or let's do this thing. And it was kind of felt like it's sifting through your fingers. But I think it's really like a sifting, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
It's like like if you don't expect everything to stay and you're not analyzing the fact that the grains of sand are falling through, then you'll actually be able to see what's left over and you won't take the process so personally.
Hmm. That's interesting. I'm trying to think about my introduction and or engagement with different places that I've moved to through the years and stuff.
What
And
about Prague?
Prague was, Prague. That's a good parallel because I didn't know anybody in Prague at all when I first went there, and then I met the dude Sean, and he was, had connections, and somebody had just said, yeah, find the guy with the Gilligan hat, and then I had like, my friend in Prague, and then I'd gone back, and I think I'd gone back like another left, came back another time, was like, yeah, I'm thinking about moving here, and dude was like, yeah, you should, move here and we'll be friends, and yeah, and he was the one that got me, out and about at stuff, and then that just got crazy, by the time it was done, but and so did I, and then I left, but that was interesting, and then I had kind of a ready-made um, when I moved to Costa Rica because the New Yorkers were there, had been there
Right.
so long. And when I was in Bulgaria, my best friends, who still are best friends, Stefan, Damien, and Toter, they were all like the two of them were my realtors, and then the other guy like did my kitchen, and now they're dear friends, So
Right.
and then anything they were doing, they'd be like, oh, we're gonna go do this, come do this, that, or the other thing.
Totally.
So that's really interesting. But when I lived in Greece, I was very alone and I was writing, and so it was really kind of, I didn't make any friends in Greece. It was just me, like literally writing, studying for my insurance adjuster's exam stuff, and going and taking
How
long.
long were you in Greece for?
Was in Greece for 4 months and Cyprus for 4 months.
Y- You were in Greece for 4 months and you were isolated for 4 months?
I didn't feel like it was maybe an I that it
A
was back.
sabbatical?
It felt that way. I mean, I wouldn't say isolated. I would go down to every Saturday they'd have the market deal, and I'd go down there and get all my bags of, fruit and vegetables, and I fish and hike back up the little hill and go to my little house,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like isolated. There was a city there, it's Volume and all the, it's kind of a lot of wealthy mariners, bring their yachts there and such. But it wasn't, I didn't have any kind of crew that I hung out with. And then the same thing again in Cyprus, but it was almost imposed because I would just I would literally get up in the morning. I would write from morning to
Right.
like dinner time.
Right.
I might go.
It can be a beautiful thing. When I was in Mazunte for like I don't remember how many weeks. I was quite isolated. I'd made some friends, but also I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the kind of the hermetic behavior. And I think in those instances, what keeps you quote unquote sane is your routine is your friend in a way. Like
Mm-hmm.
your commitment to a
Yeah.
certain kind of rituals
Yeah.
become your companion in those
Exactly.
moments.
And I think that those are really important times. I mean, I have so many friends that literally over the years, like they're not able to even just sit alone with themselves for any
Right.
period of time. There's always, my new girlfriend, my new boyfriend, my new like they always have to. I was out with, the group and stuff. And it's interesting because I do not need a lot of that, it turns out. And I find sometimes more than often that I enjoy I mean, I'm not, you know, doing anything to really truly enjoy my company, but I'll decide, oh, I'm gonna make shortbread cookies tonight, or I'm gonna,
Right.
I'm just sitting here, I'm into this movie, I'm into this film.
Right, totally. I think it's I love for me, I guess maybe because I have a lot of like I have Virgo and Scorpio and Sagittarius too. Like all of those signs are the same in that they go inwards in order to they go inwards they need their alone space, they need that sense of solitude in order to gain and recharge. And I every time I've gone into like a hermetic cycle, which is kind of where I am right now, not like specifically, but like maybe just probably for the next couple of weeks I've been a little bit hermetic. And at first it was like I was like, am I going to enjoy it? And then now I'm like really enjoying it. I'm like, okay, this is nice. Like it's resetting my schedule. Like I was going out too much. I was like kind of I was craving interaction. I was craving kisses and other things.
Well, everybody has their
So,
cravings.
but what I ended up, but now I'm kind of like, okay, like it's, being being able to find those other gears and get in quiet with yourself. I think it not only does it recharge you, but it kind of rebirths you. Like you
Hmm.
go to the darkness, you come back into it's like you go into the cave to allow your eyes to adjust to the darkness, and then you come back out to see the day. And when you do come back out, you see everything differently.
Hmm.
It's like in that period of adjustment, there's also like a new source of vision.
Hmm. Hmm. That's interesting that you say that. It's kind of a little bit with all of this sickness that our Lena went through. There was some of that hermetic lifestyle as well.
Yeah, well, okay, so we'll get to our Hullabaloo headliner in a second, but first, I think we should move on to our next segment, which is Hullabaloo recommends.
Here, 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 here. You
Do you want to
go.
go first, or can
I'm
we just
trying to
sit here
like
in
my
silence?
head's going ping, 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 ping. What am I recommending?
Right. Okay, so I want to see, like, I'm like, maybe I can check my phone to see, like, what have I recently watched? Because I always keep a list. And here, movies, Office Killer, Edward Ali Wong, Fame Sick, Mastering. Recently, oh gosh, I'm like, why am I now I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, what does Hullabaloo recommend? I want to recommend, okay, I know. I'm going to recommend Olivia Rodrigo's new album, actually, which is You Look Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. And I really love this album. I also really love Olivia Rodrigo because I think that she's this pop star, right? And she's kind of an anomaly because the way that she writes pop music is it's really catchy, it's super understandable, and yet it's incredibly well done. She has um an incredible ability of making the early tween to early 20-year-old experience, uh, universal for everyone. You can never, these beeps and bloops are killing me every time. You're
I got one on the other side there. I kept quiet. I didn't say
I
anything.
know.
I
No, I
was
don't
like,
have any.
no, I thought I heard one over there.
No, 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 but it's okay. It's like, so back to Olivia Rodrigo. I think the album is really well done. Many people are saying it's probably her best, it's her most mature work. She does some really interesting and surprising things on it as well, which is like the kind of the track order and the style of production and even the like the high highs. Like there's it it's full of surprises, it's incredibly engaging, it's catchy, it's relatable, and it speaks to like a lot of universal truths. And with Olivia Rodrigo, she's just this kind of artist that, like, in all of my snobbery, I will always say she's never not impressed me. I've always, like, I came to her just slightly curious because I'd seen her, like, her last album had gotten positively reviewed on Pitchfork, and I thought, let me check this out. And then I listened to her debut album at that time, and I had a really good memory of walking around Barcelona listening to her and just saying, gosh, this is actually really great. And it's so funny to be relating to like a teen girl. Like it was very funny because it also shows you the power of not only art, but empathy, and how there is a joy in being able to really step into the paradigm of somebody else when they have done a really, really good job of etching it for you. And so this new album is her most mature, and it also feels like she's just gonna continue to like impress and surprise. So that's
Nice,
my recommendation.
nice. My recommendation may be more of an action this week. What I found myself doing is I found myself going back to old music that I used to, that I would listen to all the time back in the day. And so I was dipping into some, we've got a little bit of an age difference here, so things are gonna be a little different. But I've been going back and reaching for the Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh,
My
I love Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you just have
Yeah.
such it's calming. And what I need right
Yeah.
now is calming, and then I also need, the joy that I talk so much about. And, I find some of that through the Doobie Brothers is another one of
Mm.
my old, standbys. And Chicago is another one. So when I was driving down to Maryland for the holiday weekend, I just kind of enjoyed going back into those places. And I think it's really important that, in times like this, that we do reach back to some of the things that give us comfort from the past, because with the
Totally.
future feeling so unknowable and the present feeling so much, for me anyway, like under the gun, always under
Totally.
the gun. Everything is always pinging, everything is always ringing. People, the expectation is get me this, get me this, get me that. And I hadn't been doing a really good job of finding those things that really tie one into that base,
Comfort.
yeah, that foundation.
Yeah, I am in complete agreement. It's so funny you say that because yesterday I was really inspired because I called you and I was quite stressed out. There's a lot of stuff that's been up in the air. And today it was kind of like, I don't know what shifted in terms of the stress, but it was like everything that I couldn't control, I said, okay, I can't control it.
Hmm.
And e everything else I said but the things that I could do, I had done, and I let myself feel pride in that. But while I was feeling that stress, I had saw this video that was really helpful, and it was this this wine connoisseur, and he says you should drink your best wine on your worst days.
I like that.
And he said, why are, he goes, if you're having a good day, people are always saving their best wine for their best days, thinking that, he goes, the day's already amazing. You don't need the wine to make it better.
That's nice.
It's like, drink your best wine on your worst days. And I go, that's a really good point. And so I just asked myself, like, what are things that I can do to take care of myself? And I took a long bath. I think I ordered the food that I wanted. I said I'm not going to go to the gym today. I'll go tomorrow. And I just like I gave myself that rest and care, because I said, you know what? It is stressful. This is difficult, and maybe this is me giving myself the good wine for a bad day.
Yeah, well, that kind of recentering that you get out of that when you are able to put it down, all of that stress and all of that, raw emotional energy down for a minute and turn everything off and and enjoy that moment for yourself, because we're only here for this time, I mean, in terms
Right.
of what's going on and after this. I think that sometimes we have to remind ourselves with those comforting things that this is it. I need to be in the moment, enjoying the moment.
Right. Right. Well, great recommendation from Chad.
Great.
I think now is the time for our Hullabaloo headliner, which is it's time to talk about Fame Sick by Lena Dunham.
Yeah. Um you want I was amazed with how her writing and the book grew on me. It took a while for me to get into where she was. Initially, I was just like, okay, so spoiled rotten from New York is now getting, the win with her writing, and now she complains about everything that feels good in life, or should be feeling good in life. And that and it because it felt like it went on for a while for me that way,
Right.
and then it changes. I think that I don't know if she's just giving you a foundation to understand where she was mentally during some very turbulent years for good
Right.
reasons and for bad reasons,
Right.
and I feel go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I'm in complete agreement. Everything that you're saying about the feeling of it, I too was like a little like I was. There was in the beginning. There was this sense of there was a sense of intrigue because there was all this momentum, but also there was also this kind of like she does seem to kind of whine a bit. Also, like she does come from this privileged background, and you're kind of weighing all those things, but it is etched so well and so clearly that it's compelling nonetheless.
Hmm.
But it does make I do think that your assertion that like you kind of do question her character in the especially in the early parts, but it later it reveals itself kind of to have its own kind of arc. At least it was my like interpretation.
Mm-hmm. And then I also, families I don't know how I feel about parenting these days, because with that kind of privileged upbringing, and it's not like, she grew up in mansions and was uber wealthy and, was swimming over to the island she was going to buy or anything like that. I, I feel like some kind.
Is that a reference to Ivanka Trump?
Did I didn't even realize.
Was that what you're referencing? Was her
Yeah.
swimming? Yeah, oh God,
Yeah.
so funny. I was like, I go, wait, I'm like swimming over the island. She's gonna, I go, that's got to be Ivanka Trump. And then wasn't it full of like bomb refuse or something? Like I forget what it was. It
Yeah,
was
like she
crazy.
supposedly climbed up a rocky hill barefoot, which I'm sure would have destroyed her pedicure after they swam over from their friend's boat, which is, obviously a super yacht,
Yeah.
and the irony and the sickeningness of it is just
Right.
beyond me. But
Right.
so I guess Lena isn't nearly as bad as I see the actions of people like that. But anyway, I feel like sometimes parents are giving too much. I think one of the things that from with who you are is that I think your parents have set like limits where they maybe sometimes haven't given enough, but I feel like she might not have been in all of the places that she was in had not participated in many ways that they did. I don't know. What's your take on
It's complicated, right? It's really clear to me. What I think that she does in a really amazing job of is she creates this sense of immediacy, as you mentioned. She's in her early 20s, she's 23, she's petulant, but she's also scared about doing this right. She knows she only has this one chance, and then she builds this really close friendship with Jenny. She starts to get sick, things start to get difficult. She doesn't like she's burnt out, and I also think that we have to remember that she's in her early 20s.
it?
It is normal for the 23-year-olds I know, 24-year-olds I know to call out, to be like, I want to go to the lake. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? She's not doing things that are out of her character. And also, I don't think that she was doing things like that super early on. It's just that when you start to do 7 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a natural inclination to rebel. I also don't think that she's somebody who does well with authority, and
Why?
probably, but because of partly because of her parents, but more so I think it's just because she is a writer. She's a free thinker, right? And so to be a writer, I think Susan Sontag said, is it's a very bizarre and modern act. Dance has always existed. Cave paintings always existed. These kinds of art forms are often very communal, but to become a writer is actually it is a solitary act, and one that requires a deep individuation that kind of goes against a lot of our natural programming. And so there is an inherent othering that one must be either born with or inclined towards.
Mm.
And so we see that with Lena for sure. And then she's also somebody who's I think wanting to be the pretty girl. She's wanting to be to experience the things that life has promised women, and then and wanting to rebel because she has these overbearing parents she loves them and they're super smothery, but of course when you have that, it's like an incestuous blanket, so you have this need to go rebel.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's making these questionable choices in the beginning, and yeah, she is. There's a lot of question marks around her character at those points. Then when she gets sick and she has these problems, it's like a lot of excuses.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of she becomes almost insufferable, and
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to sit through. But
Mm-hmm.
then it arcs. That's what I think is really interesting about it, and that's where it's almost like a magician, and where I think she is truly an incredibly gifted writer, because I know a lot of writers who are this would be almost impossible to achieve what she did, which is you're walking through her step by step chronologically in a mindset that may not be exactly like it, but it is shaped with the contours of those eras of her life. And so as you go through it, you understand why she even is tired of herself.
Mm-hmm. That is something that, I'm glad you said that, because that's actually kind of the arc, right? When
Yeah.
finally she kind of admits to, I've fucked up, and really actually starts to take some have some accountability over all of this. And that's when I started to feel badly for her. Not bad for her, but badly about what, she's going through, and that this, the illness just kind of hit her, and then, but it was still kind of hard for me knowing that with all that she was enjoying and then all that she was not, she never really gave a lot of attention to her brother.
Right.
And I and and I guess that's where I kind of circle back to the parenting thing as
Yes,
well.
her parents made her the golden child, I would say. It seems to me in the gaps between the prose that there is evidence that that Lena was the star and that her brother got the short end of the stick.
Hmm.
And she writes this passage, which when I was listening to the audiobook, and originally the first time, I was in Clinton Hill, which is not that far from where she used to live. And I remember I was in this grocery store and she talks about her regrets around her brother. And it was so moving. It brought me to tears because she says this thing that really shook me, which is that Lena Dunham says, essentially, when this thing took off, the cost was my relationship with my brother.
Hmm.
That all the demands, that trying to be perfect, that all of that space and the gravity that began to gather around me and the self-centeredness that even comes with that because everybody is asking you about you all the time and needing things from you, so you have to think about you. The cost was my brother, my relationship with my brother. And then they were left behind. They were not treated well, and they were left to feel unloved. And it really moved me because in my head I thought to myself, the to make that decision, right? You get all of the dreams you've ever had, but the cost is your sibling relationship. It's Faustian.
Hmm.
It's Beelzebub, you know? I
Hmm.
don't that's a decision you make without knowing the cost.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
if you did know the cost, I don't I think she would have still made it, as many people would have, as many people would. But it's it's a really like in rather in a really crystal clear way, she outlines exactly how when these kinds of things happen, they destroy relationships, and they do so in ways that are impersonal and natural because the nature in which this thing is moving creates no space for those other people.
It's interesting that she also, from the beginning, ties in this experience with other actors like Robin Williams and I think Heath Ledger, and did she do Amy Winehouse? Like she spoke of, and I guess that's really what the fame sick is, right?
Right.
Their experience that they undergo to enjoy this level of fame. And I felt that more recently, kind of in the review of this book, that,
Yeah.
and I think I might have missed that kind of my first run through, is that what she was really trying to speak about is through herself how all of these how it is for these people, maybe.
Yeah, that it's it's complicated and it makes you unlikable. And in her instance it made her kind of a princess, but then also it made her sick.
Yeah.
It made her super sick. And she's getting pressure to do things. People are relying on her, and then she gets hurt. And she gets hurt over and over again, and then she doesn't know where all of the sickness is coming from, and she is watching it destroy her relationships. So it's like the fame destroys her relationships, then this actual physical manifestation of sickness starts to destroy her relationships. And it's difficult to not draw the parallels, but then also the drug addiction, right?
Mhm.
And so then she falls into addiction, and the addiction aspect of it is really interesting too, because you see how it kind of goes, and you see how it, there's a certain kind of casual nature to which it begins.
Her whole life, though, feels very casual nature, except for the work. The work seems
Right.
like, that is either I'm on or I'm going to be talking about how, I gotta cover up my butthole with a band-aid and for like I don't know. As we found, I'm more demure than sometimes I think I am, right? And I feel like she was kind of a wild child. She was a wild child, engaged with, it seemed like everybody, every time somebody that, I don't know, do you bring home to mom? And
Right. Well, her, I will say that her, like, she had people that she could bring home to mom at points. And then she, it's like she almost started to bring people that were somehow a match of her frequency.
hmm Yeah,
Like
well,
when
isn't that what
the guy
people
that
do?
happened right after Jack.
Isn't that what people do though when they are, suffering from addiction? I mean, you are, who you eat, you know what I mean? Like if you're hanging
Right.
out with people that, if you, are the partier, you're hanging out with people who are the partiers, and they're gonna, not always be what you really need.
Right.
And I wonder what there's such a battle in, she's in her 20s. I know when I was in my 20s it was all about the party, and
Right.
then she's got, like, probably like the most serious of jobs, that
Right.
people in their 20s could have, and
Totally.
and and so I guess that in itself could be a hard enough balance to start to rely more on the party than on the, keeping my act together.
And what do you think about the kind of the resolution and ending? So she goes to rehab. She then ends up in another relationship that she thinks is going to work out, doesn't, and then she eventually meets the guy. But the final kind of closing of Famesick, I thought was really compelling, and she did a really good job. But I was really interested to hear your perspective.
So the way I follow it is, she goes to London and kind of, starts to kind of rebuild herself. And then the when you're saying the final closing of things, I'm maybe be more specific for me, because I think
I'm
I'm
saying, well, I think the end of the book ends up being like this kind of litany of not only realizations, but of like the bows on all of the open questions, because the book opens all these questions, and then it kind of, I think, in the end, she does a really good job of acknowledging essentially what all the things that make you frustrated throughout is when she takes accountability for it.
yeah,
So, like,
well,
there's a sense.
it almost seems like she lands where she started.
Kind of, yeah, in a way. It's kind of like, you're right, there is kind of a sense of a hero's journey, where it's like she's now have after having gone through this entire loop, is now starting over, but has this information that has left her changed.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way of, and then and with that information she goes through, and that's why I think the book is something that I would recommend, not only recommend to people, but I also think it makes it so rewarding, and it makes it so emotionally engaging. She does a really good job of answering, like, of creating a lot of this, like, the emotional turmoil, and you have a lot of these frustrations with her, because you're like, how can she not see this? There's
Mhm.
this feeling when you're reading the book throughout the book that she doesn't see it. that
Hmm.
she has blind spots to the fact that her parents
Well,
are this
with
way, that
Jenny,
she's
her partner, right? Like
right,
that shit hit her like a ton of bricks, and I was like, "Dude, Jenny's been sick of you for a long time.
right,
She no longer can play mommy, for you,
right.
and she's played mommy over and over and over again, and she's just done. She got her own damn kids to worry about, you know."
Well, it's interesting. Are you sympathetic to Jenny?
No, I think Jenny was a cunt.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, like, I would say that Jenny to me is what makes her very compelling is because we all know a Jenny.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's not surprising that what is really interesting in a way is that those blind spots that she has to herself, she has this realization. She comes with the realizations, with the accountability, with this kind of standing for it. The only thing that she doesn't do so much is point to the fact that her parents were a important part of it, because in a lot of ways she's just kind of like, those are my people, I love them so much, and in many ways she probably would have died if they weren't there.
Yo,
But also, I don't know if she would have ended up in, it's a little bit like the tail wags the dog situation.
mhm, mhm.
But with the Jenny thing, it's really compelling because Jenny asks her to wait, what, 7 years?
Yeah, yeah, before she has
And
a
then she
baby.
does. And that's fierce. That's what I want to say that makes this book very like historical, is it's just like, I love like when somebody brings in that reality, brings in the promise, and then like they owned their word, because then not only do you know that she's telling the truth, because the whole time you get that sense, but also she takes that accountability, but then also she demonstrates this sense of patience and this ability to not center herself, even in the face of somebody who did her wrong.
Mhm.
And it's incredibly honorable and it's incredibly honorific. And I commend her. I think this book is great. I think it's great.
It absolutely is. I think the part that touched me the most was related to Jenny, because I saw her and like they were a team, right? And all
Yeah.
she understood was like, we're a team, we're a team. And then all of a sudden, you start to there's cracks where you find, Jenny wanted you to negotiate your contract this way because it had
She wanted
benefit
more
for
money.
Jenny,
Yeah. For Jenny.
and
Yeah.
stuff. And I can feel Jenny's position at some level also, but I feel like, you know, Jenny had the benefit of the age of knowing
Yeah.
that and actually like knowing other stuff, and then knowing that she could use that to, I don't want to say manipulate her, because
Opportunistically.
yeah.
My impression was that it was my impression for people who are listening to the podcast who haven't read the book, to give a little bit of context in the Jenny situation. Jenny is essentially Lena's mentor and also was the supervisor that was on Girls, and they have this long storied relationship, and there's a big betrayal, there's also many micro betrayals, and there's a lot of revelation that should have made really Lena leave.
Hmm.
And eventually, I do think there is a lesson in it about, if you ignore the knife in your arm, like if you ignore the knife in your arm, then prepare for the one in your back. And if you ignore the one in your back, expect one in the heart.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a phrase. I think I just came up with it, but I think that's the
I,
T.
I love it. I think it's very deep, But that was the saddest part for me. And after they went, Lena's trying to reach back out to her and make it like their divorce a nice one, kind of, with the
Yeah,
come to therapy with me. And they go to therapy, and Jenny's a bitch. And
complete.
and then at their when they finally do separate, I mean, what a clearing for Lena, right? Because like
Right,
she understands this is it. You know what I mean?
right.
Like
And
There's
she needs that. She needs to understand that. It's
yeah.
clear for Lena that Lena is like, I don't know if she's slightly autistic or have definitely ADHD or something, that there's, to some degree, there's a, she needs she needs that door slam.
Mm,
Otherwise, she's going to hang around. And my younger self relates to that.
yeah.
It does a very
Why don't you
relatable,
like me anymore?
right? Straight
How
up.
did we not be friends all of a sudden? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is that is terribly, terribly painful for somebody in that age. I've been through that in that age and older as well, It's
Yeah.
and so sometimes one does need the door slammed in their face, like this is it, no more of this.
It's one of the big lessons of your life, and the big lessons in your life are the big lessons in your life. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
they come swinging, they come real, and you never forget them, and you're changed for them. But in this instance, she just wrote a masterpiece,
Mm-hmm.
which brings us to our next segment. It's time for us to rate a fame
Yeah.
sick.
I'm gonna try to move over to your scaling of the rating because I usually do 1 out of 10,
Yeah,
or whatever out of 10. But I'll go in the 5-star category this time just to keep things lively.
yeah,
I am gonna give the book a solid 4, and it's not because it's a book that I probably wouldn't have found myself reading it
mm-hmm,
necessarily, but I did enjoy it and got that one's life perspective out of it and how that can connect and offer other people more clarity about
right,
where you know their life can be. Like, I mean, like
right,
she really took the veil off of how much one can expose of themselves, right? I
totally.
mean,
There's something to be said, I think, about the courage of putting it out there, because it is an antidote to communal shame.
mhm,
It is the fire hose on the shame that burns within all of the readers.
mhm, of
And it
everybody though. I
right.
mean, or most people for sure. I think like,
Yeah.
she spoke of every intimate detail she could in her life, and and that takes a lot. I know that I've done that in my writing, and
Yeah.
a lot of the intimate details, but like she really got down with it. You everybody know her now.
Right. Right. And to go through like your lowest periods and to share that, it's
Yeah,
incredibly brave.
yeah.
I'm gonna switch. So for my turn, I'm gonna use your rating system, and I'll do it out of 10. I'm gonna give this a 9.2 out of 10. I
Okay.
think it is a book that I would absolutely return to. I enjoyed it. I left it loving Lena. And like you, the same thing that you said, I feel that her bravery and not only exposing herself, but like truly being like really just like as transparent could be, like human cellophane, it's incredibly commendable, especially during times when there's so many lies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's so much lies and so much shame. So, listeners, I will say, if anybody has their own thoughts about Famesick, please like, subscribe, or leave us comments. Let us know your thoughts. Tell us your ratings of Famesick if you've read it as well. We'd love to have conversations with you and continue the discussion.
Yeah. Has anybody ever actually had some of these experiences that she's had, and how did that affect you? That's what I would say. I'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, T. Well, that was another episode of Hullabaloo. My name is Nikolai Phelan, from us.
To you,
Love
you
you.
love
Peace out.